All right. Now, I don't know that I fully explained to my satisfaction why or what a midlife crisis is, why it is. But today I'm going to explain why I'm doing these videos naked because I think it's relevant. Anyone that might watch this might be curious. So I'm fairly certain a lot of the resolution of this has to do with finding my life's task. At least that's my preferred resolution at the moment. And I'm trying to do this. I've been listening to some videos. Actually, Robert Greene, the author, his stuff, his books, his videos have been pretty good for that. But one video, I was on a long drive and I came across, I was listening to podcasts and things like that. And there's a clip I listened to where a podcast host was having trouble finding his life's task and had Simon Sinek on. Simon Sinek is he's like a life coach type, I guess. And one of the things he does is he helps people find their life's task, or at least that's what he's doing right now. And Simon Sinek would then try to help the podcast host by asking him some questions. So what I imagined he was doing was asking me the questions. So the first question he asked him, try to find his life's task. First what he says, he was asking about a time where he did something professionally where he thought I could do this every day for the rest of my life. I was thinking of that answer for me. And I don't know that I have an answer that fits perfectly where I've been paid for something directly, but my answer for that was developing sports simulation leagues. So not like simulation leagues to try and predict sports, simulation leagues like games. Sports sim leagues are a bit of a niche, but it's a game. And I've been doing things like that, at the very least, like starting in Microsoft Excel since I was probably 13. But I still enjoy doing that even through my early 20s, and I still occasionally dabble in that from time to time. And that is a profession, even though I haven't done it myself for money. The second question was, he said, take a time from your childhood. Take your happiest moment of your childhood. And I've been thinking about the answer to this question, and at first I came up with something that was when I was like maybe 18, and I thought like that's too old. So, turkey. But I thought then one when I was younger, and I found one that I think was probably a good answer for the happiest moment of my childhood. I don't really think about that particular question too often. It was a little bit concerningly difficult to find it. Not because I don't think I have a good childhood, but because I don't really think about like trying to find a happiest moment ever that often. But the moment I came up with was coming home with a new puppy when I was like 8. And I had 2 younger sisters, and what we did is when we got home with the puppy, we basically just went in the backyard with the puppy and just ran. And the puppy like ran with us. And that, honestly, when I was like thinking about this, I was actually like kind of getting like emotional in the car too. Like, so I think I was hitting the mark. And then the follow-up question is, all right, so why'd you pick that moment? I think I picked that moment because that felt like a time where I could like let loose, and let loose is the word I came up with. It sounds kind of like silly, but let loose I think I don't know if I have a better word for being, I don't know, it's like the opposite of being inhibited. It's very joyful to run with a new puppy, especially as a kid. And then the question is, all right, so try to find the connection between these two. And I thought for a bit, and when I was thinking about this, I realized about my childhood that, now again, I had a good childhood, but I realized I think both my parents had a similar blind spot that may have affected me. So maybe this is the easiest way to put it. I realized that not once in my childhood did I ever hear either of my parents sing for fun. So yeah, not once in my childhood did either of my parents sing for fun. So I don't think that's common. that's again, this is not to say my parents are bad parents, but my dad has a very reserved personality. And my mom is very easily embarrassed. So that combination led to that, and I realized, like, okay, actually that's, once I put it that way, there's a bit of a running theme here. And I thought the connection to the building the sim leagues in Excel, the way I would usually describe it is I like the idea of like creating a little world where a league could then like play out, like sports leagues, whatever the sport is. And I thought there was a connection between that and not only coming home with the puppy, but other things that were in competition for favorite childhood moments, a lot of them involving things like playing games, like playing board games, like for example with my parents, where that was one of the few times that they could also kind of felt like let loose. Some of our funniest moments were playing games. I was like, that might be why, as an adult, I haven't said this in this journal yet, but I'm a huge sports and games guy, lately especially games. So if it's not convincing that that's something to do, the reason why I'm so convinced this is something to do with life's task and things like that is because I've noticed the desire to be uninhibited comes through in a lot of different ways. One, yeah, my main hobby is probably tabletop gaming. And that's partially why is those like great moments you can have where you can, you can be excited and celebrate in ways, or it gives you reasons to be excited and celebrate in ways that might not be typical in your day-to-day life. But I also, when I was 10 or 11, started having strong urges to do things like streak places naked. First time I ever did that, I was like 11. Like rode my bike to a field and I just like stood up at one corner, one end of the field, and just picked like to cut off a bit of a corner, like didn't go that far. And there's nobody around that I could tell. And just went like, boom, just like streaked part of the field. And I really enjoyed it. And I think that's because it was, my day-to-day life was pretty inhibited. It was pretty, didn't know how to didn't know how to express myself or even kind of be myself in a lot of cases. And so that, I think there's a connection that kind of felt like a shedding of layers, because I felt like I was not just clothed all the time, but clothed socially, for example. Like I think there was an end of middle school, so it'd be 8th grade type of event, and everyone at the time had their elective classes they chose. I think I chose technology class, but other people chose like the acting type classes, the stage classes, and we all were going around getting to participate in everyone's electives at the end of the year. And I did one where they were doing an improv thing, and I really liked doing improv, and I watched Whose Line Is It Anyway all the time. I love Whose Line Is It Anyway, and I tried to do the improv thing and I completely froze. I couldn't even like move. I was around like 14 or so at the time. Maybe now I'm probably 13, but I regretted not being able to move. I was like, wow, it's very inhibited. I'll talk in future videos a little bit more about maybe what I was like socially, but inhibited is a good way to do it. A lot of overthinking, a lot of not being comfortable with doing things, whether it's being honest or not knowing what to say, thinking I had to figure out what to say as opposed to just letting things out. So I think that has to do with it. And so as far as trying to find my life's task now, I see this as a way of being uninhibited. Plus, as a side benefit, it forces me to get up and do this earlier than the kids are awake, which is actually possible at their ages. And there's a slight motivation to, make sure I stay in shape as long as I'm doing this, at least mildly. So I think that's probably good for today. I kind of like telling these life story aspects, so tomorrow I may recap different aspects. I was thinking, for example, trying to explain how I got to a point where I like, how does one get a pretty good life where you don't feel like it was like an accomplishment of you feeling your potential? Like, how does that even happen? Because that's what I feel like is happening with me to a pretty significant extent. But anyway, day 3 in the books, day 4 tomorrow.